Reddit, what secret are you taking to the grave? NSW. My parents took me to get my hearing checked when I was 12 because I wasn't responding when they called my name. I pretended not to hear some of the beeps in the hearing aid test room. As a result, I wore a hearing aid for 2 years when I was 14 years old. I don't know why I did that. My freshman year of college, I was really hungover one morning and I was back at my parents' house for the rest of the weekend. I was wearing loose-fitting athletic shorts with no underwear and kind of rocking back and forth in front of the TV to feel that satisfying slap. Any dude knows what I'm talking about. Well, I went to fart, but instead a stream of diarrhea squirted out just at the right moment and completely missed my shorts but got all over the carpet. I went to the bathroom to grab some TP, and by the time I got back to the living room, my dad was on his hands and knees cleaning it up and yelling at my dog. I've never had the heart to tell him it was my accident. I worked for a shipping company at a customer desk. A guy I had known came in to ship a package. He was a known drug dealer in my town. He didn't recognize me. The package was wrapped in duct tape. I took the package, brought it out back and made it disappear into my backpack. After my shift, I opened the package and found $37,890 in cash. I never went back to the job and never heard anything about it. I left Texas a month later with cash in hand. Power play. Also, that dude probably got murdered. My dad cheated on my mum with her sister when I was born. My aunt moved in to help my mother with the newborn, that is, me. My mother told me while she was drunk at a dinner party and started it all off with, I know I sometimes sound like I hate you, but there's a reason. So, even though I love both of my parents, I secretly think they're both pretty awful excuses for human beings. My dad for obvious reasons, my mother for holding it all against me. In GR 10, my dad made a deal with me. If I got an average of 88%, he'd buy me a new laptop. Well, the marks came in and I only got something like an 84-85% average. Well, frick that. I want my laptop. So I went online to the regional school board's website and downloaded a PDF template of the report card. I don't know why they would have this available. Used a PDF editor to fill in the blanks and voila. Got a brand new laptop. No regrets. PS. After I did this, I started selling customized fake report cards for $50 each. I was giving my cat a belly rub and it jizzed all over my hand. You must give really good belly rubs. I was groped and armpit by a teenager multiple times when I was 6 years old. The last day it happened, my mom walked in on the act. She was furious. She yelled. She grabbed a gun. She dragged the guy out while he pleaded for his life. She put him in her car and drove away. I never saw him again. He was my grandma's neighbor. There was no police report. There was no trial. I asked her where he was and she told me that she took him far away and he wouldn't come back. I didn't think anything of it then. I hardly knew what had been happening and I eventually blocked it from my mind. I have flashes of it from time to time. Sometimes I wonder what she really did. When my brother committed suicide, I was walking into his house to go hang out. And I never knocked because we're best friends, so his house is my house and my house is his house. Anyway, I walked and got some food from the kitchen and figured he might have a girl over because usually he'll hear me and say what's up from across the house, so I didn't bother him. I've been in his house eating for about 10 minutes when I hear the gunshot that killed him. When anyone asks, I tell them I found him like that. I don't think I'll be able to ever tell anyone I know that if I would have just knocked or walked down the hall, I might have saved his life. I once took a week-long trip to London. My mother asked me to get her a small rock from there, because neither of us have ever been out of the country. So, I spend the whole trip looking for this rock, and finally find the perfect one. Fantastic. She'll love it when I get back. So I get home, I'm taking inventory of all of my souvenirs, and the rock is gone. I immediately think back to where I last saw it. It was on the bedside table in the hotel in London. Crap. So I quickly run outside and find a decent rock. I clean it off. We live in Georgia. Freaking red clay is noticeable AF. And wrap it nicely. I eventually gave it to her with the story I got it from a castle. It'd break her heart to know that I got it from our backyard. My dad was a biker. He died in a motorcycle accident. He had this huge old garage barn that he spent hours in. I was cleaning it out with my sister and we found a locked briefcase buried in a cupboard. We popped the lock and it was full of women's clothing, stockings, lingerie, things like that, and definitely not my mom's size. I was peed. He had been cheating on her. Then I got into his AOL accounts. My mom can't work a computer any better than she could work a spaceship, so I had to go in to shut his accounts down. There I found all of these screen names that he had made over the years. Every one of them had to do with stockings and panties. That's when I realized that the clothing in the briefcase wasn't a woman's. It was his. I found tons of gay pee on his computer as well. My sister and I swore never to tell and we got rid of all of the evidence. My mom is extremely conservative and even though I don't agree with her point of view, I know it would kill her to find out. That briefcase is sitting in the dump now. I threw rocks at the school with one of my best mates and some other student tattled on us. Basically we both got the paddle. Basically they smack your bum. And they sent a letter home to my dad. My dad received the letter and I lied to him and said I never threw the rocks. My dad, bless his heart, believed me and took it to our school principal and convinced him that I wouldn't lie about such things. Since the principal wanted to rectify it for my dad's sake, he offered me a free voucher for an ice cream as an apology. It's 15 years down the track now, and I still feel really bad for it. I feel like if I told my dad now it would break his heart. In my younger years I had a neighbor that constantly left a mess in the yard making it look like a junkyard, and they let their kids just run around fricking up the entire neighborhood. I tried to sort it out civilly with them by asking them to stop doing things that peed off everyone, but the only response I got was that I was racist and they would target me and say I touched their kids if I ever talked to them again. They were grade A buttholes, so I decided to respond in kind and made an anonymous tip to the cops that they were selling drugs. I did this for maybe 4 months, asking my buddies to make similar tips every now and then. Well, one day I come home from school. The whole neighborhood is outside on the street and the butthole's house had cop cars and a van outside. Turns out the tips worked and the cops finally checked it out. But then I see the mother and father getting led out in cuffs. Turns out when the cops showed up it was just 2 officers, but when they went to the door to talk to them the father took off out the back door. Long story short, that made the cops chase him down, drag him back, search the house and end up finding a fuck ton of pills, coke, and weed stashed all over the house. Since they had kids the hammer came down on the hard for that and in the end they were both arrested for dealing and the kids were taken away. Not sure if it was the right thing, and I will never let anyone know, but at least after that they weren't fricking up the neighborhood anymore. All my friends think they watched me lose my virginity on my front lawn one fateful summer night when I was 13. We were actually just pretending to have sex in order to frick with my friends. We were both too scared to actually do it. I've never corrected them. I was in kindergarten, probably 5 years old, and during sleeping time I asked a girl to show me her dong. I had, at the time, the freakiest buckwild frick of my life, with my best friend roommate's sister. In the middle of it, we heard someone come in. Thought it was the other roommate. Nope, it was him. Proceeded to have quite a frick, thinking he would leave eventually. Nope, marathon gaming session in the living room. Had to pull out my car behind the place in the alley, climb on my car and help her down from the 2nd story window. When I went back home, he asked me if his sister had come by because she left her keys in the kitchen. I said I didn't know. He thinks the other roommate banged her because, well, he looks like a dude that fricks dude sisters. I once put a bottle in my butt to poop into it. My dad's a National Socialist and he regularly goes to meetings. I was raised on Germanic folklore and the idea that I'm superior to others because I'm of German descent. I have plenty of Jewish and slavish friends and I just tell them my dad died when I was younger. When I was 13 I was told that my great-grandparents were going to move to Texas and start their journey to heaven. I was crushed. I would spend every day with them up until they moved in May of 2009. Before they moved, I took a shoebox and decorated it with a picture of them and angel wings. I took my Gigi's favorite shirt, my Pop-Up's favorite button-up, printed their favorite things, and stashed them away in the box. They would search for the shirt and assume they packed it away. 1 month later my Pop-Up passed away, then my Gigi passed a week after him. I was crushed. I never told anyone but my current boyfriend about the box and most likely never will because I'm selfish. I've only opened it up 3 times in the past 6 years. I swear the shirts still smell like them. My sister and I were on holiday together recently and very drunk one night when we got back from the bar. Naturally we started drinking more because we were on holiday. She has the ice cube tray in her hand, opens the window simultaneously and loses her focus and drops the tray 5 floors to the street, hitting a big guy square in the dome. He looks up and started screaming and shouting in Italian. I live in Rome so I understood he was calling us some bad names. We just closed the window and continued drinking while we could hear this man shouting he was going to come up there and rip our heads off. Please never find me, Mr. Scary Italian Man. M/18 at the time, my first night away from my parents, in a new town for college. I was ARPed, also lost my virginity, by girl with a combination of severe autism and Down syndrome. I had passed out in a bed after a party. First day of college, why not celebrate, right? I awoke to find myself tied up and her slamming me. I tried to fight back, throw her off, but she burst my nose then choked me out. I woke up the next morning untied, covered in blood, semen and my clothes completely ripped up from scissors. Now 23, living with my girlfriend. The question obviously came up once or twice. It's generally a funny, embarrassing story for most people. I can't bring myself to tell her the truth. I also won't ever let her get on top while we have intercourse. One night I woke up with my mind in a twist. My mom was in the hospital at the time. I had a crazy urge to call them and check on her, but I reasoned not to because I couldn't think of an excuse, so I fell back to sleep. 5 AM I get a call that they checked on her and she didn't have a pulse. I just think there was something I could have done that destroys me to even think about it. I walked in on my then 15-year-old male cousin violating my grandparents' female dog. It was mortifying and I'll never forget what I saw. I was only 8 or so at the time and I didn't really know what to do. Time passed and by the time I had figured out what to do, I don't think anyone would have taken my word over his. At 5, the husband of my mom's cousin uphead me. I remember that night my mom bathing his daughter and I together. I was too afraid to sit in the water because it hurt so bad, to which the daughter told me, don't worry, it'll stop hurting once you get in. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to break that family apart since it was so already fragile. It's probably too late now, but I wish I'd said something because looking back, his kids were really fricked up. All the R34 I've drawn over the years. In 5th grade I cheated on an exam. My buddy and I were the only 2 people in the grade who got this particular question correct, but I copied him. The worst part was he was considered dumb while I was at the top of the class, so the teacher was convinced that he copied me and he ended up getting suspended. Long story short, I was too puss to admit that I was the one who cheated, as my parents would have murdered me if I failed the test, and even worse if I got suspended. My mother killed my father when I was 8 years old, with a shotgun blast to the face. He bled out through what was left of his head into my lap. Blood has a smell, a stink, when there's enough of it around. She got off, because it was a self-defense situation. She sent me to school the next day, and ever since I've pretended that I'm a well-adjusted, stable person. I'm not. I went to counseling for abuse after my parents divorced, and I was never abused, so they put me in the regular room with all the people there who were waiting for their siblings. I claimed my father abused me so I could go to the special room with all the abused kids. It was horrible. I had no right being in that room with all those people. They all were really messed up from what their parents had done to them, and I just got in so I could play Yu-Gi-Oh! When we were kids, a female cousin and I played doctor around the age of 6 or 7. Talked about it a few years ago around the age of 25. Became deeply intimate and have had really incredible intercourse several times over the last few years. She recently got married and we have since ended our relationship. We are both normal, successful, contributing citizens. You'd never know. Hopefully no one finds out, but I miss her and our level of intimacy. Uncle tragically passed away last year. Never married, no kids. Treated his 10 nieces and nephews like we could do no wrong. I also found out he was probably gay, and I don't think he was out to my family, or at least to most of us. No one would have had a problem with it, but it's hard to come out when my grandma just wants to set her youngest, would have turned 50 in May, baby up with all the ladies, you know? She's persistent but means well. Is also a tad oblivious at times, but she's in her 80s. Anyway, after he passed, my dad and I were in charge of finding files to the book he was supposedly writing about our family. We wanted to finish the book and publish it in his name. My dad was having no luck finding files on his HD, so I took a stab at it. Dad isn't the best at computers. I found dating site photos he had taken, shirtless mirror pics, photos of guys I assume he was talking to, and emo he could have done better. You're the best uncle and only deserve the best. Also saw his history when I was looking through his browser's bookmarks to get to his emails and accounts. I forget if I deleted it yet. If I haven't, I will. I figured the search history was confirmation enough for me. Me and my wife were going through tough times. I just got back from Afghanistan. I played Russian roulette with my 357 Magnum, 3 loaded. I lost. Getting a divorce now and alive. Broke into a church, door to the children's daycare thing was open, then took a tiny kid's chair. The first person I ever fapped to was Wanda from the Fairly Odd Parents. I'm an out lesbian, but a few weeks ago I had intercourse with a male friend of mine. He's gay. We both got drunk and curious and had never gotten with the opposite gender. After sleeping with my then girlfriend, she got up to use the shower. How I kept a stiff upper lip while talking to someone with poo on their butt crack I have no idea, but by God I had a face of stone. I instantly realized she'd be horribly embarrassed if she found out, and I couldn't let that happen. I left the bathroom and thought to myself, okay, she was on bottom for a while and buck naked of course, so, oh frick me. I immediately head to the bedroom, throw back the covers, and sure enough, there's a big fricking skid mark on her pretty white bedsheet. Well frick hotshot, what do you do now? Strip the bed. Explain later. Fine. I pull the fitted sheet off the bed and find another fitted pad thing under it, with another fricking skid mark. At this point I'm starting to feel impressed by my prowess. Heh, and mortified at the possibility of the fricking mattress having crap on it too. I anxiously peel off the fitted pad and, thank the gods of fornication, it remained unbefouled. Relieved I wouldn't have to throw her mattress on the front lawn and set it on fire, I quickly throw the sheets in the washer and start it up. Shortly after, she gets out of the shower and asks about the stripped bed and washing machine running. Lately she'd been spotting a little bit and she figured that must have been what it was. It didn't bother me at all and I knew she couldn't help it, but it made her feel really embarrassed. That's why I knew if a little bit of blood on my junk embarrassed her, then a big fricking rooster tail on her bedsheets would fricking destroy her. So she got sad and embarrassed and talked about how she grossed me out and I wouldn't want to sleep with her anymore, but all in all we were fine. To this day I never told a soul. That was the first and hopefully last time I've ever literally fricked the crap out of someone. You have been visited by the super land shark. Comment not today to make sure he doesn't eat you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.